Hey, what's up? Hey, I got on actually a little sooner. So last week was the finale of the Acolyte, and I haven't seen it because I have not seen any of the Disney Star Wars stuff, but from all the accounts that I've read and watched, it sucked, and people were saying, yeah, this ruined Star Wars. This is destroying Star Wars. Man, this is just ripping apart the lore and the characters of Star Wars. And so I just wanted to go back 25 years and talk about the first time people were saying that Star Wars was ruined. Am I defending that, Clay? Absolutely not. Like I said, I haven't seen it, and from all accounts, it looks awful. But I wanted, I wanted to talk about this back in May as well. But I might as well do it now since it was, just finished the Acolyte. And yes, as you can see from the title, it's not why it's terrible, why it's horrible, why it's awful, or even why it's bad. I honestly find Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, to be a fascinating movie. I honestly think that. And here's why. A lot of this, what makes it fascinating to me, is stuff outside of the movie. First of all, let's take you back to 1999. People were so hyped for this movie, and that's the biggest thing. Hype. Hype, I think, is one of the things that built up and kind of destroyed the movie in a way. Because people were so like, oh, this is going to be the best movie ever. It's going to be the best movie of the year. It's going to be the best movie. Another great Star Wars movie. I can't believe Star Wars is back. And it was so big that when the trailer dropped, people lost their mind. It's a really good trailer, though, even now. But if YouTube was a thing back in 1999, there would have been so many like reaction videos of people doing their reaction to the trailer, and people would try to get a bunch of views off of it. It got so big, I think I mentioned this before, that people would actually buy tickets to movies such as Meet Joe Black and Waterboy and just watch the trailer for Phantom Menace and then walk out of the theater. They wouldn't even watch the movie. They only bought a ticket to watch the trailer. It's nuts. Another thing about the hype that's fascinating to me is that people lined up for weeks. I'm talking like 3 weeks at least to watch, to be the first in line to watch the Phantom Menace. I find that interesting, especially nowadays. You would never have that happen, especially with, you can go online and reserve a ticket and your seat easily. But back then you couldn't. You had to be the first in line, so people were camped out trying to be the first one to watch Phantom Menace. It was so interesting to me because I used to watch the show called The Man Show with Adam Carolla and Jimmy Kimmel. One of the things they did was they pull pranks on people, and one of the pranks they pulled was they cut in line and to the screen of Star Wars, to Phantom Menace, and people were pissed that they decided to try and cut in line at the very front of the line, cut in and just pretend, yeah, we were the whole time. What are you talking about? And then people were like dropping F-bombs and calling the cops, all this sort of stuff. And it's really interesting to look at it now. And yeah, it's a fascinating movie because of the cultural aspect of it, and also the fact that after it came out, years after it came out, and then now the perception of the movie has really changed. People hated. No, actually, people liked it at first. People thought it was a good movie. Thought it was like, oh yeah, this is good. And then they saw it again. That's where that joke from Family Guy, it's not Family Guy, The Simpsons, comic book guy. Oh God, comic book guy say, worst movie ever. I'll only watch it 3 more times today because of Phantom Menace. That's where that joke is from. And the fact that people, because I think it's kind of like a sunk cost fallacy, people would watch this. Yeah, it's good. It is good. It's really good. And then they thought about it as like, yeah, the movie's not good, and then they went, the movie sucks, it's terrible, and then especially after episode 2, Attack of the Clones came out, people really hated the movie, hated Phantom Menace so much, and then when Revenge of the Sith came out, they were saying, "Wow, that is the worst one because look, actually, Revenge of the Sith is actually good. This movie sucked." And it just for years, people would say there were even movies. There's even a movie, I forget the name of it, where people would talk crap about George Lucas and how dare he ruin Star Wars and how dare he do this with the prequels and blah blah blah. Honestly, with that, I don't even blame George Lucas for selling it to Star Wars to Disney and then just yeah, do what you want. Yeah, you have my support. Whatever. Because why wouldn't he after the crap he went through? But then, after Disney bought Star Wars, people were like, yeah, screw those people suck, and Disney's gonna knock it out of the park and show you how it's done. Little did they know, because the first one, the episode 7 of The Force Awakens, people were like, yeah, that movie was awesome. Kind of the same thing that happened with Phantom Menace. It happened again almost 20 years later. Well, actually, yeah, 16 years later. Because it came out in 2015. 16 years later, where people really liked, a lot of people were like, yeah, the movie was great. But then you had, The Last Jedi and then I call it Rise of Palpatine, because really that's who's rising in this movie. Being really bad. And then Solo underperforming and people going, oh no, what have we done? And now they're looking at Phantom Menace and the prequels like Thanos going, perhaps I treated you too poor. Perhaps I treated you too harshly. Because people are like, okay, it's not good, but at least it has a story. It has a connected tissue. It has passion as well. You could tell George Lucas wanted to make this movie, whereas the sequel trilogy, they're done by committee. And they was like, okay, what do we need here? What do we need there? All right, and it's just people. I've even heard a couple of reviewers say the last 2 movies were just AI generated, basically, or especially the Disney Plus shows. After the Disney Plus shows came out, people really started looking towards the prequels, and including Phantom Menace. I was like, yeah, that movie's actually okay. Compared to the crap we've been getting now, the prequels as a whole, I have my own thoughts on them, but people are like, you know what? At least that one, there is a story, and you can tell that you can follow along and how it's told. It's not told well, not told greatly, but at least there's a story there. They're not just like making up as they go along. That's what it seems like with the sequel trilogy, and from what I've heard, a lot of the Disney Plus shows were like that. Yeah, I'm not even really talking about Phantom Menace. A lot of stuff that's fascinating to me is the stuff outside of it. The movie itself, also, this is where Lucas started, really leaning into more of the CGI. You had Jar Jar, which doesn't really work all that well a lot of the time. But what I think does work with the CG is actually the world. They feel more lived in, whereas it's a set, but the establishing shots, that's CG, and I like this CG establishing shots of this is what the world is, and when we're going through this world, it feels lived in. It feels like it's not just an empty soundstage. And if you were to ask me, what's the worst thing about the movie? Honestly, I think midichlorians. People really rag on Jar Jar or even Jake Lloyd as Anakin, but I think the midichlorians are the worst part because, and I think I said this before, it's the Force. It doesn't need a scientific explanation. It's metaphysical, so you don't need to try to explain it. Also, that's probably the worst. But if you ask me what's my favorite thing about Phantom Menace, honestly, it would be Weird Al Yankovic's The Saga Begins. That's another fascinating thing about this movie. The Saga Begins is a great song done to the beat of Bye Bye Miss American Pie. And the fact that Weird Al did all this research, read spoilers, tried to get on all these forums, which was these new things, forums on this new thing called the internet, and actually learned all he could about the movie and wrote a really good song that tells the entire story of Phantom Menace in what, 5 minutes. It's art. That's what Weird Al really is an artist, and he's great at it. And so I think that's my favorite part of it, is that. But also when it comes to what I think another fascinating thing is that, look at, Kelly Marie Tran getting all this crap from people. People did not have any sympathy for Ahmed Best or Jake Lloyd. They got so much crap, not just from fans, but also from media, critics. For Jake Lloyd's case, his classmates, people just hated on them, and it was nuts. And now, like, people, speaking out against bullying. You didn't speak out against this bullying, did you? No. And it's another thing to look at, is like, wow, we really did treat them badly. Yeah. Overall, the movie, I think there's some good stuff here. This is where I think people say, when people look at it, as like, okay, what's a good thing? The fight. That's another thing that's interesting to me. And what's fascinating is that the original trilogy, they weren't really testing themselves. It was very much like stand still, hit a couple times, and then maybe use some force powers here and there. But when Phantom Menace came out, that was one of the best fights in all of Star Wars, in a sense. That lightsaber, that 2-on-1 handicap match between Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Maul. And that scene, which is in the trailer, that if the YouTube existed back then, people would be, there would be like thumbnails of all of the reactions and the middle part would be Darth Maul pulling out the double-sided lightsaber. It's a really good fight, and not to mention the way they fight is good, and it gels well with the characters. That's probably my other favorite thing, is that fight scene. It's really good. But yeah, overall, I find it's a fascinating movie as well, because this is where Lucas was trying to. Apparently, Lucas wanted other people to help him, and people were like, "No, George, you got this. You're a genius." And he just had yes men behind him say, "Yeah, do that. Yes, do that." Instead of saying, "Hey, George, what if you do this instead? Hey, George, maybe this way. Why don't we do this?" Because, especially if you look at behind the stuff from the original trilogy, George Lucas didn't really have an ego, or even in the prequel trilogies, he didn't really have an ego. It's like, no, we have to do it my way. They're like, basically, if you have a better idea, we'll use it. And since he didn't have people to bounce ideas off of and give him ideas, like, oh, okay, let's try that instead. Let's try your idea. Let's do this instead. It turned into what it became. That's another issue, is that it is a lesson of don't surround yourself with yes men. Yeah. I think that's all I've got to say about Phantom Menace. But yeah, like I said, it's a fascinating movie to me. I think there's stuff in there that's good. There's stuff that's bad. But overall, like I said, a lot of stuff outside of the movie fascinates me, even now, 25 years later. What do you think? Do you find it fascinating? Is it just a bad movie? Is it your favorite movie of the Star Wars, all 9 Star Wars movies, not counting the spin-offs? So, I'm trying to have something else soon. I'll figure out what I want to talk about. And so, until then, take care. Bye.